The content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. And please, feel free to share the video. Thank you. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. You all know what today is, right? It's Friday the 13th, motherfuckers. So get your Jason paraphernalia ready. Get your Jason paraphernalia ready. Where your axe is at. Anyway, man, before I get things started, I want to give a shout out to all of the members of the Green Gorilla channel, like I always do. I want to give a shout out to David the Man, Afro Analyst, NEU, Ronan Martin, Black Wizard, ADOS, Camp Low, Isa Abdul Sahir, Anthony Taylor, Deshaun Nolly, Ab Media 83, Aaron Lloyd, Leroy Honeycutt, MLR, Julius Ferguson, Charles Rogers, Black Dog, Brother Love, Ryan Jackson, Infamous Chillin', Randall, Universal 178, Black Swerve 404, Rashid Barnes, Aaron Smith, The Walt Diddy Show, DH, C-Truth, The Revelator, Gold Professor, The Nameless Protagonist, Black Pill Ned Stark, Arthur Unknown, Odd Collard, Roderick Jackson, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, Brian Williams, Kalon Jakala, Sherrod Martin, Ricky Dawson, Cedric Bowman, True 7360, BK Born Shaheed, James Washington, Hostile Adept, Seven Coast Dojo, Shop Talk Live, WPR1, Roguish the Buildmonger, I Care, Forrest Windu, Lady Miss Thing Green, BGS Ibmore, and Marvin Battle Jr. Thank you for being members of the Green Gorilla channel. But I also want to take the time out to give a shout out to those persons who have dedicated to my Patreon account. I want to shout, and some of them will be doubled because they're making double the contributions. So Lee Purdy, thank you, sir. Camp Low, Jay Bailey, Mr. Meach, NEU, Momal, William Ruffin, and Angs Gua, I think. Asan Gua. I think that's how you pronounce that. I'm not quite sure, but Asangua and Sierra Iking. That's I want to give y'all a shout out to. So thank you so much for helping with the Green Gorilla channel. Yes, I want to thank you all for helping with the Green Gorilla channel. And you too can become a member of the Green Gorilla channel if you would like to. Here's how. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. Today, I want to introduce you to my new membership program that consists of 5 levels where you can invest in the Green Gorilla channel on a monthly basis and receive level-specific perks. Memberships are special because they improve the quality of the content of the channel and will help me to be able to keep the channel going. Now, to participate in the Green Gorilla channel membership program, all you have to do is hit the join button, which is located right next to the subscribe button on my channel page. Now, for all of my subscribers who decide not to participate in my membership program, nothing will change. The content will keep coming the way it always has. Thanks for watching, and be careful out here, people. Bless. The content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. So here we are back. I'm the G with a PhD. You know where you're tuned in. It's the Green Gorilla channel. It's the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up and down, no special effects, no chasers. So today I'm going to get into some news, man. I got some things I want to talk about, man. Yo, have you ever seen a television show called The Mandalorian? It's a good TV show. It's a spinoff of the Star Wars movie series. Has anybody seen The Mandalorian? It's a pretty good television show. I bypassed it last year. I looked at it and I said to myself, that's not something I really want to watch. I don't have the time. But after having watched the first the first season of the series, I thought it was pretty dope. I was like, man, this is some tight shit. And the star of the show is not the Mandalorian. The star of the show is Baby Yoda, who's not really actually connected to Yoda in any way that we know of, other than the little creature, the little whatever they call it, because there is no name for this species of alien in the Star Wars series. But we know that he's related to the Yoda, and we know that he has immense powers. Okay? Now, the funny shit about it is, so I've been watching this season too, okay? I just recently picked up onto the series, and so, the interaction between the Mandalorian and the Baby Yoda is commonly referred to in popular culture. It's hilarious to me. So you got this manly figure having to take care of a supernatural baby. And the interaction between the two is funny. It's hilarious. And it's meant to be hilarious. It's meant to be funny. But unfortunately, and this is some crazy shit, right? So, little Baby Yoda's been canceled, right? Not from the show, but from cancel culture. Baby Yoda has been canceled. So, here's a picture of little Baby Yoda. I don't know if you can see that, how well you can actually see it, but that's a picture of the Baby Yoda. And Baby Yoda has his eyes fixated on a tube that contains eggs. But the eggs belong to an amphibian, a frog lady, who is protecting the eggs and has to meet with a male frog on some planet in a star system far away from where the Mandalorian finds her, and she hitches a ride with him in order to meet the male frog so that she can fertilize the eggs so that she can perpetuate her species. But the little Baby Yoda, the last episode, not the last episode, because the last episode is episode 3 of season 2. But episode 2 of season 2, in that episode, we see a little Baby Yoda consuming the frog's eggs. And some people have taken offense with little Baby Yoda having consumed these eggs. And so there's an article in Vanity Fair, which of course we all know is a publication that is centered towards that of women. But at any rate, this is what the article says. The article is written by Anthony Bresnikan, and I'm not going to read the entirety of it, but just a few sentences from the article will suffice to figure out what's going on there. But it says, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. That also turns out to be true of the tiny. Baby Yoda, who 1 year ago today cozied into the hearts of Star Wars fans with his bottomless eyes, fuzzy head, and adorable cooing, has invoked genuine social media wrath for last week's episode of The Mandalorian, in which the mystical infant remorselessly snacked on the eggs of an endangered galactic species. Now, whether this is serious or silly depends, as Obi-Wan Kenobi would put it, on a certain point of view. So in chapter 10 of the Disney show titled The Passenger, Pedro Pascal's bounty hunter agrees to ferry an amphibious alien woman known only as Frog Lady to a swampy distant world so she can fertilize her canister of eggs, which floated in the brine like peeled apricots. So anyway, Amy Sedaris' Starship mechanic explains that if Frog Lady doesn't succeed in reuniting with her spouse before the equinox, the eggs will no longer be viable and her line will end. So tragic. So that adds some dramatic significance to the cargo, although there remains debate about whether only her family line would cease or if the loss of the eggs would annihilate the species entirely. Well, then the unspeakable occurs. Throughout the episode, Baby Yoda is caught reaching his little green claws into her unsupervised container in order to gorge himself on the inappropriate morsels. I guess this is a GIF, so I guess if I show this GIF, it won't trigger a copyright strike. But there's little Baby Yoda looking at those succulent little eggs before cramming one of them into his adorable little green mouth. So, I mean, there are people seriously upset about Baby Yoda having consumed the eggs. And so fans and detractors of the show are upset to no end about little Baby Yoda and the consumption of these eggs. Some people said, I was defending the story choice the other day because I thought it was intentionally very disturbing, not comic relief, and will hopefully have some meaning going forward. But now I'm just incredibly disgusted. I mean, and there are counter complaints also. It's fucking funny because they're fictional characters in a fictional universe of a non-existent species. So stop the drama for a fucking show. One user posted. There really are important things in the world, but I just thought you would like to see how far this bullshit can go sometimes, So little Baby Yoda's been canceled because he's consumed some little baby eggs of a non-existent species. So people were all up in a tiff about that. Another thing I wanted to draw your attention to was a article that I came across, which basically asserts that, something that vice presidential elect, or so they say. We don't know what the fuck is going on in this country right now, how things are going to pan out in their entirety. But for all intents and purposes, we will just assume here that this Kamala Harris is now the vice presidential elect. And in a recent acceptance speech, she puts forward the notion that black women are the backbone of our democracy. And this is what she says. You ushered in a new day for America. Thank you for bringing more people than ever before into the democratic process. You delivered a clear message. You chose hope and unity, decency, science, and yes, truth. You chose Biden as your next president of the United States. So those are some words that she put forth. And then she also made some remarks about women who fought and sacrificed so much for equality, liberty, and justice for all. And then she made a special shout out to black women. And she said, black women are too often overlooked, but so often prove they are the backbone of our democracy. So there you have it. Kamala Harris and black women as the backbone of all democracy in the United States. Just thought you would be interested in hearing that little tidbit. Although it is the case that men who are black voted 80% for Biden and Harris. I think black women were somewhere around 91%, 90%. But, you know, black women just did all the heavy lifting. But you know how the narrative goes. No need to spend too much time there. But you get the picture. But not all is well, in La La Land. Because there are some people, younger people, by the way, who are still upset about some of the things that have occurred in the social landscape of the United States of America. And they've begun to question what is going to happen now that Biden and Harris have been elected to be the president and the vice president of the United States, related to what has come forth as far as we know. Okay? So Joe Biden thanks the black voters, saying you've always had my back and I'll always have yours. But many remain skeptical that he would usher in real change. And what's the likelihood that he will? Probably not very high, I would suspect. And then you got a group of young black men sitting there thinking to themselves, like, what the fuck is this old ass white dude about to do for black people? What the fuck? What is he going to do? So, so there's a woman, Miss Nellums, 42 years old, who basically says, well, let's see if he's really being honest about this. Namely that because black people have always had his back, that he's going to give something back to the black community. So, Miss Nellums is someone who was interviewed by the New York Times, and this is what she has to say. Well, let's see if he's going to be honest about this. My prayer is that it's not just lip service. Well, Miss Nellums, if I were you, I fucking wouldn't wait. I wouldn't put my life on it. I wouldn't bet my life on it. Gary Woolfolk, 53 years old, who lives in suburban Atlanta, says, I'm hopeful and willing to give Biden a chance, but I am not completely sold. Wonder why that is. Perhaps maybe you're not black. Because we all know that, if you don't trust in Biden, you ain't black. Another individual who's black, Isaiah Thomas, a city councilman, in fact, says it about his, elect situation, that it does create a situation where there's more pressure to provide for the black community. I don't think that we can recreate this moment right here, so we have to get as much as we can for poor people and people of color. Now, this is a black man, and he's saying, let's help poor people and people of color. He doesn't say a goddamn thing about helping fucking black people. Now, I'm about to get pissed off here. It just gets my goat when I hear shit like this. Again and again and again and again and again, I hear black politicians and black statesmen continuously talking about everybody else in the fucking world except for the people who are the poorest in the most abject position in the United States of America. Like, does it take a fucking genius to figure this shit out? Do we have to start sending physicists and social scientists and all kinds of other people from the academy to go talk to the people who are politicians to get them to fucking see that the poorest people, the most abused people, the most abject people, the most people mired in dysfunction are fucking black people? Jesus fucking Christ, man. These social justice warriors that we have in office, these are the most sycophantic, the most groveling, and the least ready to deal with the issues that black people have. Because all they do over and over and over again is try to demonstrate how they're not racist themselves by looking out for their own constituencies. This is ridiculous to me. Oh, now we have to have poor people and poor people of color. This is the problem. You see, when people from the LGBTQ community go and they look for shit and they make demands, they make their demands. And they don't give a fuck about anybody else but them and their group and their constituency. When women go in and they want something, they think about themselves and their constituencies. It's only Negroes. Only these Bojangling. I wish I had a picture of Daffy Duck right now fucking tap dancing and shit. I'm going to pull one up. I'm going to pull one up. Because it seems like, again and again, this is where we're stuck. This is where we are stuck. Why are we stuck here? Why does no one care for what's happening with black folks? Why are we the only people that continuously have to deal with the situation in which our interests have to take the back seat to everybody else's interests? These are the kind of guys we got representing us in Congress and in town halls and in positions of government all throughout the nation, who are looking out for poor people and people of color. This is what we got. This is what we got. I thought it was going to get bigger. It only got smaller. But you get the picture. These tap dancing Negroes. They'll do anything other than to deal with the issue about black people. It's almost as if you say anything concretely about black people, then you've broken some sort of rule. But oh well. Oh well. We'll see. But in more news, and today I don't give a fuck today. It's Friday the 13th. I don't give a fuck today. Okay? I'm going crazy. I'm going crazy today. The content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. I don't give a shit today. It's Friday the 13th, man. I'm Jason right now. I'm head hunting. I got something else to share with you, some more news. So, this article is from The Root. It's labeled Gender Studies, written by Maisha Kai. And it's published yesterday. And it's basically about how, with $1 million gift, Howard University announces the launch of a Center for Women, Gender, and Global Leadership. And there you got a picture of the AKAs. What do I think about that? I mean, hey, it is what it is. My mother was an AKA, okay? She's dead now. So I'm not here to throw salt on the AKAs or anything of that nature. But anyway, on Saturday, November 7th, the nation learned that a graduate of Howard U will become the highest ranking woman in American history when she assumes the vice presidency next January. It's all 153-year-old HBCU. So on and so on and so on. I don't feel like going all through all that bullshit, okay? But the addition of the first female vice president proved the harbinger of a new era in Howard's legacy as an incubator for female leaders. On Thursday, University President Wayne A.I. Frederick announced a $1 million gift from Heather and Jim Murrin to launch the Center for Women, Gender, and Global Leadership, per a release from Howard provided to the Glow Up. The gift kicks off a multi-million fundraising effort that will be an interdisciplinary, student-centered, faculty-led institution that works with professional programs in health, business, communications, and law, as well as majors in the arts and sciences. The center will be led by J. Jarpa Dawuni, Esquire, Howard's esteemed associate professor of political science, who's been recognized as a Fulbright scholar and a Carnegie African Diaspora Fellow. The center's academic focus will include producing innovative and theoretically grounded research and creating a data center on issues of women and gender in the U.S. and the global black diaspora. And let me just say this shit right here, okay? I don't have a problem with women having grants and centers and things of this nature for themselves. But at the very time in which you see black men suffering greatly, and we see a divisiveness growing in our culture and in our society between men and women in general, and a lacuna, a chasm of kinds growing even further between men and women who are designated as black, ADOS, FBA, however you want to nominate it, however you want to term it. We see there's a growing divide. This will only help to amplify the divide. This will only seek to and help to maintain and provide rational to maintain the gynocracy, which for all intents and purposes is a female patriarchy in the black community. Because of course, black women are the backbone of democracy. Not only of the black community, but of democracy in the United States itself. Yeah, and I said, look, one of the things I said the other day, I said, you know what? First it was the black community. Then I said, well, you know, next is going to be, next is democracy. After the community. And jokingly, I said, well, the next thing you know, these motherfuckers are going to start saying that they're the backbone of the fucking universe. The universe itself. But unfortunately, that has already been done. Shit. Shit. It's already been done. They've already been declared the fucking backbone of the entire universe. Well, anyway, I've left. I'm going to leave an invitation. I'm going to leave an invitation for anyone who wants to come in and make a comment. But like I said, I don't have a problem with receiving money, getting grants directed towards their demographic. But I do know that given the current context in which the relations are between men and women, and black men and women specifically, at this juncture, I don't know if such a gesture is one that's going to bear fruit, as it were. We'll see. We will see. In time, we'll see. But I want to give a shout out to Crimson Cure. I see you just came in the house. Mark Swift, thank you. I see David Demand, thank you. Black Pill Net Stark, thank you so much for the donation. I'm going to take a short break, though, and when I come back, we're going to get into the subject matter of which I initially began, or the mindset with which I began to develop the stream, which is the Democrats are the authors of neoliberalism and the mass incarceration state. They are the authors of it, not the right. All of the austerity measures, the small government measures, the big state elimination, like we don't want any more social programs, we want to shrink those, and those were the Democrats. The Democrats created that trend, not the conservatives, not the right. The Republicans is what I'm speaking about here. So we'll come back, and when we come back, we'll get right to that. So let's take a quick break, and then we'll get to it. The content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. And please, feel free to share the video. Thank you. So, you know who I am. I'm the G with a PhD. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. And today we're going to talk about how the Democrats are the authors of neoliberalism and the mass incarceration state. Thank you, Rasheed Barnes, for the donation that you've provided. And in order to make this case, I'm just going to read an article. This is an old article. It was written long before it was the ambition of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to become the president and the vice president of the United States. This is an old article. It goes back to 2011. And the article it's written by people on the left. But it's interesting. And I'm going to share that article with you and read it for you. And I mean, ultimately, you'll get the gist of where I'm going with this and how it ties into contemporary politics and the misunderstanding that people have about the left versus the right in the contemporary political landscape and how black fit into that political landscape and why they are lemmings, suckers, bamboozled people to assume that the people on the left love them. or looking after them, have their best interest in mind. They smile in your face, but all the while, they want to take your place. They're some fucking backstabbers is what these people are. So this is the article. Start with Jimmy. Now, many of you don't even know who Jimmy is. I remember seeing Jimmy Carter on television over and over and over again as a young lad. You see, I was born in the 70s, the early 70s. I was born in 71. And so I remember hearing commentary from Carter. Anyway, the article is titled, How Reaganism Actually Started with Carter. It's an opinion piece. It is. It's written by Michael Lind. Let's get some information on Michael Lind. Michael Lind is the author of more than a dozen books of nonfiction, fiction, and poetry. He is a frequent contributor to the New York Times, Politico, and the Financial Times, the National Interest, Foreign Policy, Salon, and the International Economy. He's taught at Harvard and Johns Hopkins and has been an editor or staff writer for the New Yorker, Harper's, the New Republic, and the National Interest. So he's an author of fiction and nonfiction. I think I might have messed that up initially. So going back to the article. So I guess, there was a commemoration at the time the article was published. February 8th, 2011. Get rid of that bullshit popping up on my screen here. So I guess there was a commemoration of the birthday of Ronald Reagan. And he goes on to say that the 100th anniversary of Ronald Reagan's birth has produced disagreement over his policies among conservatives and liberals, but agreement on one point. Reagan's presidency marked the end of one era in American politics and the beginning of a new one. An epochal shift indeed took place, but it happened in 1976, not 1980. The age of Reagan should be called the age of Carter, in politics and policy alike. In politics, both Carter and Reagan sought to exploit the white backlash in the aftermath of the Civil Rights Revolution that had led many white Southerners and white Northern ethnics to defect from the Democrats to support third-party populist candidate George Wallace. So you get that right? So in the early 70s, there was white backlash to the civil rights movement. Get that through your thick fucking skulls and let it penetrate into the base of your Abdullah oblongata so that you can understand this shit. There was a backlash to the civil rights movement, and politicians on the left and the right were seeking to deal with the problem related to the white backlash from the civil rights movement and the gains that had been garnered, if you want to call them gains. If you really want to call them gains, or refer to them as gains. So anyway, Reagan began to exploit this white backlash by beginning his general election campaign in 1980 in Neshoba County, Mississippi, where white supremacists had recently firebombed a black church and had earlier murdered 3 Northern civil rights activists, Andrew Goodman, Michael Schwerner, and James Chaney, In a thinly disguised appeal to Southern racism, Reagan declared, "I believe in states' rights." So that seems pretty fucked up. It is. It's fucked up. You go to a place where you know a black church was bombed, and then you sit there and you ingratiate the very demographic that did the fucked up shit. It is fucked up. I'll admit to that. Wholeheartedly, I will admit it. But it's not just people on the right who are pandering to these fucks. Not just people on the right. Because there were also people on the left willing to pander to these persons who wanted to usher in or to voice their political opinion about having a paramount white backlash. So Jimmy Carter used similar coded language in fishing for votes from white ethnics in the North who objected to blacks moving into their neighborhoods. There goes the neighborhood. In an interview with the New York Daily News in April 1976, Carter said, "I see nothing wrong with ethnic purity being maintained. I would not force a racial integration of a neighborhood by government action." A few days later, questioned about this remark, Carter elaborated, "What I say is that the government ought not to take as a major purpose the intrusion of alien groups into a neighborhood simply to establish their intrusion." What? Now this is Jimmy Carter. And listen to what this motherfucker says now. The government ought not to take as a major purpose the intrusion of alien groups into a neighborhood simply to establish their intrusion. You would think we're fucking like Independence Day, a fucking alien species from outer space with an entire different physiology and biological chemistry. At any rate, Jesse Jackson referred to Carter's words as a throwback to Hitlerian racism. Carter not only won a majority of the Southern vote, but also did well among white ethnics. So anyway, the opportunistic race baiting of Reagan and Carter was similar to that of the assassinated liberal icon Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who died in a May 31st, 1968 California television debate with Eugene McCarthy, his rival, for the Democratic presidential nomination, said in response to McCarthy's support for public housing, "You say you are going to take 10,000 black people and move them into Orange County? It is just going to be catastrophic." So you got Robert F. Kennedy also saying some slick shit about black people moving into white neighborhoods. We got some crazy shit going on in the background. In foreign policy, Carter attacked the Nixon-Ford administration from the right, in the same way that John F. Kennedy in 1960 had accused Eisenhower and Nixon of being soft on the Soviets. Like Reagan, Carter rejected the cold-blooded realpolitik of Nixon and Kissinger and insisted that foreign policy had to be based on the promotion of human rights and democracy. Many hawkish neoconservative Democrats hoped that Carter would be their standard bearer. When President Gerald Ford asserted that Yugoslavia, Romania, and Poland were not dominated by the Soviet Union in a presidential debate, Carter used Ford's statement to portray himself as the anti-Soviet hardliner in the presidential race. So it was Carter, not Reagan, who brought the religious right into national politics. Get this straight. It is Carter, not Reagan. Carter, not Reagan. Carter, not Reagan, who brought the religious right into national politics. Even though they turned against him later, Carter won the Southern evangelical vote in 1976 by advertising himself as a born-again Christian. Like Reagan later, Carter, the folksy farmer and veteran from Plains, Georgia, appealed to the nostalgia of white Americans in the 1970s for a simpler, more rural, more traditional society. Carter, not Reagan, pioneered the role of the fiscally conservative governor who runs against the mess in Washington, promising to shrink the bureaucracy and balance the budget. Early in his administration, Carter was praised by some on the right for his economic conservatism. Ronald Reagan even wrote a newspaper column titled "Give Carter a Chance," the most conservative Democrat in the White House since Grover Cleveland. Carter fought most of his battles with Democratic liberals, not Republican conservatives. Carter, not Reagan, presided over the dismantling of the New Deal regulatory systems and airlines, railroad, and trucking, intended to reduce inflation by reducing the cost of essential infrastructure to business. Carter's market-oriented reforms have backfired, producing constant bankruptcies and predatory hub and spoke monopolies in the airline industry. An oligopolistic private railroad industry that has abandoned passenger rail for freight and underpaid, overworked truckers. So again, it's the Democrats, not the Republicans. I'll be right back after a commercial break. Give me 1 second. The content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. So I'm back. I'm the G with a PhD. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. I had to take a quick break right quick. Somebody was blowing the fuck out of my phone up, so I had to make sure that there was nothing emergency related, and it wasn't. But anyway, so we already have incidences in which we can see that Carter tried to romance the religious right. He dismantled New Deal policies and regulatory systems in transportation infrastructure. He basically pioneered the role of the fiscally conservative governor who runs against the big budget waste spending in Washington. It was Carter who was willing to appeal to the sensitivity of white purists. So, I mean, all of the charging of this pathology, these pernicious practices to the right, is disingenuous. It's intellectually dishonest. And we know that it is. But every 4 years, every 2 years after that, up until the 4 years, we play this game of, well, it's the people on the right are racist. And we're supposed to believe this bullshit every time we hear it. And there's more, though. It just doesn't stop there. Today's Democrats would like to forget that supply-side economics was embraced by many members of their own party during the Carter years, while it was resisted by many old-fashioned fiscal conservatives in the grand old party. As the economist Bruce Bartlett points out, in A History of Supply-Side Economics, by 1980, the JEC, which is the Joint Economic Committee of Congress, was a full-blown advocate of supply-side economics, despite having a majority of liberal Democrats, such as Senators Edward Kennedy and George McGovern. Its annual report that year was entitled, Plugging in the Supply Side. So, what is supply side economics? It's not a difficult concept to comprehend. Basically, supply side economics is a macroeconomic theory that basically says that economic growth can be most effectively created by lowering taxes and decreasing regulation. That is what supply side economics is. Lower taxes, stop regulation. The Democrats, according to the chairman of the JEC, Senator Lloyd Bentsen, who went on to be President Clinton's Secretary of the Treasury, the 1980 annual report signals the start of a new era of economic thinking. The past has been dominated by economists who focused almost exclusively on the demand side of the economy. The committee recommends a comprehensive set of policies designed to enhance the productive side, the supply side of the economy. So all it is saying the supply side is the companies, the businesses. Lower taxes, lower regulations, and give room for the people who are rich to breathe. That's all it is. And it's the left, not the right, who ushered in these policies. The chairman of the Federal Reserve arguably has more influence over the economy than Congresses or presidents. Fed Chairman Paul Volcker fought the raging inflation of the 1970s by hiking interest rates sharply, deliberately causing the worst American recession between the Great Depression and today's Great Recession. He then encouraged a boom by lowering rates. Volcker was appointed in 1979 by Carter and reappointed by Reagan in 83. These people know each other. They're in bed with one another. In defense spending, as in supply side economics, Reagan continued what his predecessor in the White House had already begun. Talking about Carter. The reversal in the post-Vietnam decline of American military spending began under Carter. Following the shock of the Iranian Revolution and the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. From a starting point of 4.7% of GDP, gross domestic product, Carter called for raising defense spending to 5.2% of gross domestic product in his final budget for fiscal year 1981. The Carter administration called for defense spending to rise even further by 1987 to 5.7% of gross domestic product, only a little below the 6.2% where it peaked in 1986. So it's Carter who's responsible for the militarism and the growth of the military-industrial complex, not the right. The Carter Doctrine, which formally made the Persian Gulf a vital interest of the United States, began the transition from the Cold War focus on Europe and East Asia, where the U.S. had fought in Korea and Vietnam, to the greater Middle East, where the U.S. since Carter has fought 5 motherfucking wars. Bosnia, Kosovo, 2 wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as numerous minor conflicts like the intervention in Somalia. It's your boy Carter who started this shit. So while Carter and Reagan disagreed on many things, they shared the neoliberal consensus that continues to provide the common assumptions for presidents of our own day like George W. Bush and Barack Obama. The New Deal consensus, which lasted from the 1940s until the 1970s, included modern Republicans like Eisenhower, Nixon, and Ford. They were New Deal Republicans. Gerald Ford was the last New Deal president, and Jimmy Carter, motherfucking Jimmy Carter, Carter was the first neoliberal president. The Great Recession has discredited much of the neoliberal consensus, but no alternative has yet won wide assent among policymakers and thinkers. And this is the last paragraph of the article. I'm going to take another break and I'm going to come back with why did Carter do this? Who led the thinking of this administration? Who was at the head of it? And I can't go deep off into the rabbit hole of this. I can't. Because it would require too much time. But I can get you started, and then maybe the next time I come back, maybe tomorrow, I can do a show to explain how this all got started and how we are where we are today, how we wound up where we are today. Anyway, he goes on to say, even if Ronald Reagan had not been born a century ago, there would have been some other president in the same era with plain folk mannerisms who appeal to nostalgia for a simpler past on the part of American voters who are upset by racial and cultural transformations, who pose as a plain speaker outsider who could rescue Americans from the Washington insiders implicated in scandals like Watergate, who would promise to cut bloated government budgets and the free market from the allegedly suffocating constraints of the New Deal era regulation, who would bring morality back to foreign policy and respond forcefully to the perceived aggressions of the Soviet Union. A president, in other words, like Jimmy Carter. So in other words, somebody was bound to put an end to the New Deal regulation era, especially as that New Deal era regulation was going to go to some niggas. Let's get the shit, you motherfuckers, man. As soon as New Deal arrangements were going to be allotted and earmarked for Negroes, they cut it off. You get it? Do you understand it? Are you starting to get it now? Do you comprehend it? Are you aware of it? I want to thank Rasheed Barnes. I appreciate you, man. I already gave you a shout out, but I want to give you another one. Appreciate you. I appreciate your donation, sir. I for real do. You know? For some reason, I can't scroll up and down my comments anymore. But that's okay. For some reason, I'm kind of stuck. Don't know why. But I'm going to take a quick break. And I'm going to come back. I don't know why I'm stuck like chucking out of luck. I don't like that. But I'm going to take a quick break. And I'm going to explain to you how all this shit started. And you'll be surprised. It's going to start sounding like conspiracy theory. But it's not. It's reality. It's reality. I'll be back in a jiff, man. So we're back. You're tuned into the Green Gorilla channel. I'm the G with a PhD. We've been having a discussion about the ways in which the liberals, so to speak, were not really liberal at all. That there was a movement away from liberalism to a new mode of governance with an entirely different kind of foreign policy, with an entirely different kind of domestic policy. And I know I've been hooping and hollering and I haven't been very professorial tonight, and I apologize for that, but it's Friday the 13th and I just really don't give a fuck right now. I don't. I just don't care. I got my man Chris Lewis say, I don't want no more. Too much meat on the bone. I feel you, my brother. You might have to take this in some, you might have to cut this off, break the steak down into little pieces so you can digest it. But here's the deal. There was a movement away from New Deal policies to fiscal policy that was more austere, and to a foreign policy that was much more aggressive, and to a policy or a set of policies related to business and supply side economics, which is it's basically supply side economics is favoring taxation policies to that of the wealthy and that of business owners and the capitalist class, those who are the most wealthy. All of these policies were set forth by fucking Jimmy Carter, a Democrat. And often, and the funny thing is, right now, you got these Democrats who are arguing that it's the people on the right who have these regressive policies when it was their party and the people who they honor and look up to in their party who originated this shit. And then they try to play it off or pass off to the public like they're two different sides of a coin, in which they are, but remember, it's the same coin. The left wing and the right wing are part of the same fucking bird, the American eagle, man. And whatever direction the goddamn bird flies in, both the left and the right wing have to steer it there. Now, they might use cable network news and television in order to try to get people to stay locked in to the minutia related to politics in America. And they may even use race as a means by which to usher in or to develop strategies in order to get people to vote for them. But you have to ask yourself the question, who really benefits from this shit? Who really knows about American politics and the general thrust and trend of American politics? Because all I know is the most simplistic bullshit I've ever heard is Negroes talk about politics. It is sickening to hear black people talk about politics. It's like I stepped into a fucking classroom with people who can't read or write or fucking add, subtract, or multiply or divide. It's sickening how simplistic black people's politics is. Even amongst the members of the intelligentsia, it's sickening to hear these people talk. It's sickening. So, what you don't know and what you need to know, and this is another article, but I'm borrowing now from the thoughts of a philosopher who is not really a social and political philosopher, but he has begun to do work in social and political philosophy. His name is Noam Chomsky. He's written, books on the media. He's written books on politics. But for the most part, I kind of agree with him on this political shift and the cause of it, the source of it. Let's look at it. I can't delve too deeply off into it, but it'll lead us to the next show. Okay? He was a linguist, philosopher. Yes. Adam Williams, he is. So this is what he has to say about it. And then after that, we'll break and I'll let you go. I want to thank you also, Eli. Hey man, BG. I feel you, bro. I'm giving you a heart bump right there. Okay? So I'm not being professorial tonight, but I am to a certain extent. But I'm letting the epithets fly tonight. Because I'm just tired of the fucking simplisticness of Negroes in politics. They can't think in the terms of eras. They get caught in the minutia. Then they get caught in the cult of personality. And then they get caught in conversations about who's good related to race. This is the most simplistic and ignorant shit I've ever been exposed to in my entire life, man, with black people in politics. So you mean to tell me we're still vibing off the party who signed legislation in fucking the mid-60s? Even if they dog whistle, which Clinton dog whistled his ass off like a motherfucker. Ain't nothing, they didn't even dog whistle. They start coming out and telling you, niggers are predators. We need to lock their asses up. They didn't even, they said, fuck it, we're not going to even hide it anymore. You niggers are predators. We don't know how they got that way, but we know we need to bring them to heel. This is the facts. Bill Clinton is the person who basically eliminated welfare as we know it. And they basically said black women are lazy. You better get your ass out there and get a job. This motherfucker from Arkansas, he's a fucking Dixiecrat, man. And they're fucking racist. They'll smile in a nigga's face. But all the while they want to take your place. Backstabbers. Backstabbers. And they can say the shit right in front of our faces and we'll still put our knees around their fucking ankles and shit. I don't like the ride. I don't like them on the ride. I don't like them on the right. Them racist right there. But they calling your sons super predators and they calling your daughters lazy welfare queens. Just like the other people on the right, too. They just saying the same shit, but I don't like them on the right. I don't like them on the right. I don't like them. And that's the fucking sophistication that we have as it pertains to politics. I don't like them. I just don't like them on the right. He a racist. I don't like them. I don't like them on the right. This is why it pisses me off to hear people be critical of people like Ice Cube and anybody else who's come up with what they can see, or even people who've come up like Darity, who've come up with plans of their own on how to remedy or to deal with the problem related to Black America. They get cast down as being somehow a problem, except for the motherfuckers who actually really are the goddamn problem. The people who establish policies that are harmful and destructive to Black people across the fucking United States, they're not the ones who get looked at and critiqued. It's motherfuckers who coming up with agendas during election cycles. And this shit passes over as politics, sophisticated forms of political maneuvering for Black folks. Or we don't know what he gonna do. We just gotta wait and see. We don't know what they's gonna do, but we know we the backbone. See, Black women know what the fuck they're doing because they know that they've been shoehorned in the policies that favor them in virtue of the fact that white women have had policies that favored them. So they're able to use their double minority status in order to shoehorn themselves in the policies that are favorable towards them. But they don't give a fuck about what's happening to Black men, apparently. And even Black men don't give a fuck what's happening to Black men. Because if they did, they wouldn't be voting blindly for any party. And they would be demanding someone better than fucking Top Cop Kamala and Jim Crow Joe. They definitely would be doing better than that. So I'm ranting and raving, and I don't give a fuck about it either. So anyway, let's look into it, man. Look, okay, Noam Chomsky, what he has to say. The Carter administration, myth and reality. Let me share the screen. And then after I read this, I'm out of here. Now, this is an excerpt from something written by Noam Chomsky in 81. So we're talking about when I was 10 years old. This was written by Noam Chomsky. And this is what he has to say. The Carter administration, myth and reality. Perhaps the most striking feature of the new administration, Carter administration, is the role played in it by the Trilateral Commission. The mass media had little to say about this matter during the presidential campaign. In fact, the connection of the Carter Group to the commission was recently selected as the best censored news story of 1976. And it has not received the attention that it might have since the administration took office. All of the top positions in the government, the office of president, vice president, secretary of state, defense, and treasury, are held by members of the Trilateral Commission. And the National Security Advisor was its director. Many lesser officials also came from this group. It is rare for such an easily identified private group to play such a prominent role in an American administration. Now, the Trilateral Commission was founded at the initiative of David Rockefeller in 1973. Its members are drawn from the three components of the world capitalist democracy: the United States, Western Europe, and Japan. There's your Trilateral Commission right there. US, Western Europe, and Japan. Among them are the heads of major corporations and banks, partners in corporate law firms, senators, professors of international affairs, the familiar mixed and extra-governmental groupings, along with the 1940s project of the Council on Foreign Relations, directed by a committed trilateralist, and with numerous links to the commission. The project constitutes the first major effort at global planning since the Peace War Studies program of the CFR, the Council of Foreign Relations, during World War II. So you got David Rockefeller, this immensely wealthy man. Now, I'm not going to go into who the fuck David Rockefeller is. If you don't know, you need to do some research on your own. But at his behest, he gets a group of guys together and unites three components of the world capitalist project: the US, Western Europe, and Japan, and gets together the heads of corporations and banks and law firms, and he gets senators and professors of international affairs all together, and they come up with a global plan. He goes on to say the new trilateralism reflects the realization that the international system now requires a truly common management. As the Commission reports indicate, the trilateral powers must order their internal relations, their domestic policy, and face the Russian bloc, now conceded to be beyond the reach of the Grand Area Planning and the Third World. So this is Cold War politics. Cold War politics. In this collective management, the U.S. will continue to play its decisive role. As Kissinger has explained, we're talking about Henry Kissinger. You should know who he is. Other powers have only regional interests, while the U.S., the United States, must be concerned with the overall framework of order than with the management of every regional enterprise. So in other words, the U.S. is going to be the head fucking kahuna, because the other powers only have regional interests. The U.S. is more concerned with the overall framework than with the management of little enterprises. If the popular movement in the Arabian Peninsula is crushed, better to dispatch U.S.-supplied Iranian forces as in Dhofar. If passage for American nuclear submarines must be guaranteed in Southeast Asian waters, then the task of crushing the independence movement of the former Portuguese colony of East Timor should be entrusted to the Indonesian army rather than an American expeditionary force. So get other people to do the dirty work for you. The massacre of over 60,000 people in a single year will arouse no irrational passions at home, and American resources will not be drained, as they were in Vietnam. This is a new enactment of foreign and domestic policy. And it comes in with the Carter administration. If a Katangese secessionist movement is to be suppressed in Zaire, a movement that may have an Angolan support in the response to the American-backed intervention in Angola from Zaire, as the former CIA station chief in Angola has recently revealed in his letter of resignation, then the task should be assigned to Moroccan satellite forces and to the French, with the U.S. discreetly in the background. If there is a danger of socialism in Southern Europe, the German proconsulate can exercise its regional interests, but the board of directors will sit in Washington. So this is some peaky and the brain shit. And these people haven't even kept it secret. They wrote a book on the shit. The Trilateral Commission has issued one major book-length report called The Crisis of Democracy. It was published in 1975. Given the intimate connections between the Commission and the Carter administration, the study is worth careful attention as an indication of the thinking that may well lie behind its domestic policies, as well as the policies undertaken in other industrial democracies in the coming years. The Commission's report is concerned with the governability of the democracies. Its author is Samuel Huntington, who was the former chairman of the Department of Government at Harvard and a government advisor. He is well known for his ideas on how to destroy the rural revolution in Vietnam. He wrote in Foreign Affairs, which is a periodical, in 1968, that in an absent-minded way, the United States and Vietnam may well have stumbled upon the answers to wars of national liberation. The answer is forced draft, urbanization, and modernization. Explaining this concept, he observes that if direct application of military force in the countryside takes place on such a massive scale as to produce a massive migration from countryside to city, then the Maoist-inspired rural revolution may be undercut by the American-sponsored urban revolution. So in other words, urbanize these motherfuckers. And then you won't get any rural revolutions. Get these people to adopt and adapt to your way of life and get rid of the rural environments. Destroy them. This is like the fucking Guardian of the Galaxies, Kurt Russell, implanting his idea of civilization throughout the entirety of the world and finding means by which to stop revolutions from occurring before they even start. But we talking about he racist. He racist. These motherfuckers thinking light years ahead of us. They building space stations. We trying to get a PlayStation. I'm about to get pissed off. The Viet Cong, he wrote, is a powerful force which cannot be dislodged from its constituency so long as the constituency continues to exist. Thus, in the immediate future, peace must be based on accommodation, particularly since the U.S. is unwilling to undertake the expensive, time-consuming, and frustrating task of ensuring that the constituency of the Viet Cong no longer exists. Accommodation was conceived by Huntington as a process whereby the Viet Cong degenerate into protest of a declining rural minority, while the regime imposed by U.S. force maintains power. But he says it didn't work in the Viet Cong. It didn't work for them, but eventually it ended up working. But a year later, when it appeared that urbanization by military force was not succeeding, and it seemed that the U.S. might be compelled to enter into negotiations with the National Liberation Front, which he recognized to be the most powerful, purely political national organization, Huntington, in a paper delivered before the Aid Council, or Supported Council on Vietnamese Studies, which he had headed, proposed various measures of political trickery and manipulation that might be used to achieve the domination of the U.S.-imposed government. And this is the last part of this I'm going to read. And I'll come back tomorrow and read the rest of this. But this is what he says, though. In short, Huntington is well qualified to discourse on the problems of democracy. The report argues that what is needed in the industrial democracies is a greater degree of moderation in democracy. Do you get what that's saying? A greater degree of moderation in democracy to overcome the excess of democracy of the past decade. The effective operation of a democratic political system usually requires some measure of apathy and non-involvement on the part of some individuals and groups. This recommendation recalls the analysis of third world problems put forth by other political thinkers of the same persuasion. For example, Ithiel Poole, who explained some years ago that in Vietnam, the Congo, and the Dominican Republic, order depends on somehow compelling newly mobilized strata to return to a measure of passivity and defeatism. At least temporarily, the maintenance of order requires a lowering of newly acquired aspirations and levels of political activity. In other words, make these motherfuckers become less involved in democracy. The trilateral recommendations for capitalist democracies are an application at home of the theories of order developed for societies of the third fucking world. So when they do that shit worldwide, they come back to the fucking house and do the same shit and implement the same policies and practices and use the same trickery and political maneuvering. And this is what has me pissed off. They building space stations, we playing PlayStation. Our politics is black women are the backbone of democracy. These motherfuckers are planning fiscal policies for decades in advance and trying to get less people involved in the democratic process to make America less democratic and to have people be less thoughtful. All of this while black people are suffering the most that they've ever suffered in the context of the social and economic landscape, especially owing to this current pandemic. And we sit here talking about some stupid shit. I never forgive you if you don't vote for the white boy who locked all y'all niggas up. Huh? This is the most sophisticated display of political explanation and maneuvering you niggas can come up with? The lesser of two evils? You don't even know what the fucking evil is. You haven't even gone to explain, express, or to outline the fucking depth of the evil and how filthy the fucking cesspool is. And you expect for niggas to sit back and be quiet and take your lead for it. I mean, your word for it. Take you at your word that your oppression gonna make sure that everybody else is gonna get taken care of. I haven't heard any women in any sphere have conversations about these matters at all. Where's the fucking conversation about this shit happening at? Why are we not having a depth of sophistication in our political understanding of both political parties and how to use them at our advantage when we have some sort of semblance of political power? I'm just tired of this coon shit, man. I'm tired of coon politics. I'm tired of coon niggas in general, man. I just want us to wake up, man. I'm tired, bro. I'm going to finish this up tomorrow, man, because I'm tired, bro. I just, I done lost all my desire to keep going on with this bullshit. We are lost, man. We don't even know where the fuck we're going. You know, my grandmother used to say all the time, and you know, she was a matriarch or whatever, a gynocrat. But one thing she said, and it sticks with me and resonates with me, man, to this very day. She said, if you don't want a nigga to know something, put it in a book. Write the shit down. Put it in a book. Put it in a book. We haven't read anything about the Trilateral Commission. We don't know Jimmy Carter's involvement with the Trilateral Commission, his connection to it, nothing. And how this ushered in a new level of governmental foreign and domestic policy for the United States, and how both parties are part and parcel of the same kind of global strategy that was at the time utilized in order to repel what they considered to be the growth of the Soviet bloc. And that at the same time, they were using racial politics, both parties, in order to stymie the development and growth of black people, but particularly black men. At the same time that they edified white women and allowed them to take advantage of civil rights legislation, which they firmly resisted against, until they were able to shoehorn themselves into its boons and its advantages, while at the same time criminalizing black male life. And then you got niggas in the manosphere talking about Pookie and Ray Ray and shit. It's sickening, man. It's sad, bro. It's sad. And Lindy, you're exactly correct there, brother. Zbigniew Brzezinski. Motherfuckers need to know who he is. And how the people in the media right now, the woman who is one of the big wigs at MSNBC on the show The Morning Joe, that sits next to Joe Scarborough, who's supposed to be a member of the right, and she's supposed to be a member of the left. And how Zbigniew Brzezinski is her fucking daddy, Mishka. Her fucking daddy was a goddamn bigwig, Secretary of fucking State in the Jimmy Carter administration. We just, man, we have a limited and a narrow view of politics, and niggas know more about basketball and football and fucking baseball than they do about their own political reality. And it hurts my soul, man. But anyway, man, if you like the content that you hear on the Green Gorilla channel, I encourage you to make a donation. Because the shit that I'm talking about is not going to lead to a lifelong security in academia. I can tell you that shit right now. And guess what? I don't care. Because I think academia is full of shit. These people are supposed to be thinking, especially black people in academia, they checked out a long time ago. They're in it for them and their families, man. They're not in it for the black masses. Some of them are, but the vast majority of these Negroes, man, they give a fuck about themselves. This shit is about career opportunism for them, man. I hate to tell you that. But anyway, man, if you like what you hear here, please make a donation. But I'm out, man. Right now, I'm about to lose my voice, man. I'm pissed off. There's a lot of shit going on with this bullshit democracy we supposed to live in. And we got to do better, man. We have to learn more. We have to think more deeply. We have to have more nuance, more subtlety has to be utilized in our approach to politics. And unfortunately, we're not doing it. So, and I'm not saying everybody should be at this level of sophistication as it pertains to politics, but some people have to, especially if they're ready for it. So having said that, man, I'm out, man. I'm done. I'll catch y'all later. Tomorrow, perhaps.
Yeah. I'm a phenomenon, I shine like Orion. I came in a rap gang to smack it up like Heron, transform it like Megatron. Wait, like Yamatron, most rappers are some peons. I'ma starve them like Ramadan, I'm troublesome. You don't really want no troublesome, cause I pop guns like hood chicks do bubble gum. I been dumb, gon' stay that way till kingdom come. When the sun I'm at, unleash a demon, a polygon. I'm heavy, son, got more knowledge than Farrakhan. More gang than Cap, comma that bishop named Don Juan. Stay lit off some Shandon, maybe Bacardi Ram. Stay drink to some Nordstrom, call me that Dapper Don. More violent than Genghis Khan, the members of Taliban. Niggas faker than silicon, get hit like a .com, like soldiers in Lebanon. I'm bringing that red rum. When I get through with you, son, you gon' think I'll see ram. I carry weight like a heavyweight, bake more cakes than patty cake. Watch the fiends salivate. You a lightweight, bantamweight. Better contemplate. If you violate, make you levitate to the pearly gates. I fascinate when I conversate from the show me state where these niggas love to hate and hot murder rate or the waste. But this flow is just a taste of God's grace, shining this light in the ugly place. In the prophecy, got more wisdom than Socrates' philosophies. You don't really want no parts of me, can't you see? I'm slicker than Mephistopheles, stronger than Hercules, more dangerous than Damocles. The MCs trying me pretty please. I wait up they white tees, knock them out they wallabies. Now they touch my deliries. For coming up shorter than little C's when I break out the killer bees. I study music like Arcasi, hit chicks look like Ashanti. When I'm breaking them off, they yell at odd poppy. You rappers is sloppy, you can't stop me with that. We can sorry, copy, malarkey. I'm a monster like Frankenstein, rock harder than Palestine. You slams, dropping dimes, a snake and serpentine. Can't stand to see me glow like Nas with his big shine. All you haters colder than cold sores, need calamine. But my hot shit like red bricks hitting your head. Leave the sour taste up in your mouth like lemon heads, like Simply Red. Wasted some years up in the feds when I touched down, already red, that gave me head. I got higher vision for higher living, I'm highly driven. I'm acting women like it's some sort of sick religion. Driving an Impala, sitting on it, each 20 inches, and they spinning just like the planets in the solar system.
Black country people, over in Africa, down to America. Black country people, we make all the world go round and around, yes. Black country people, up in Canada, down to Jamaica. Black country people, we make all the world go round and around.